Hello, all you lovely, crafty people out there. Welcome to the Guilty Knitter. My name is Vivian, and this is episode 3, coming to you from Montreal, Canada. And it's a very snowy day in Montreal, but well, we're managing. I feel bad for my husband, who has to go all over creation today in the car, which is not a joy on a day like today. But it's not like anywhere else. I mean, people still carry on. Doesn't matter how annoying it is or even how dangerous somehow. He still has to get out to where he has to be. In fact, you know, being a musician means that you don't have regular days of the week like most people. In fact, Sunday is usually my first day of the week. I usually have to work on Sundays because my concerts are towards the end of the week, so we start rehearsing on Sundays and carry on and tend to have our concerts later on in the week. But last night we had opera, so we didn't have to work today. So that was fun. We did the opera called JFK, which is a new production. Very cool. It's all about John F. Kennedy's last 10 hours before he was killed. So it's an interesting opera. Has lots of cool things, very interesting stuff. Some slow bits, and I'm sure there's stuff going on stage that makes it more interesting. But from our perspective in the pit, it's you know, it can be a bit slow, but that's okay. My hair looks insane as usual, but anyway. Which brings me to an exciting new development. My niece Jess, who is a Edmonton tattoo artist, Jess Martin, she made me an avatar. I asked her, I said, Jess, could you please make me an avatar for my new podcast, The Guilty Knitter? She was very excited and got right to work, and it just looks, I just am so happy with it. She did such a terrific job. I mean, here I have this is my 3rd episode, and I already have an avatar, and I have merchandise, believe it or not. If you go on this Redbubble site, I think it's called, artists upload their works there, and then you order things with that artwork on it. I didn't even know this was a thing, but it's terrific for artists. So it's a way for them to make a little money, and it's super easy, I guess. I mean, of course, I didn't do the uploading. Maybe it's not so easy, but anyway, she does it, and so she put all this stuff that you can buy. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous because I'm not exactly. There's not going to be any run on it, I don't think, but it is kind of funny, and I will put the link up. Mostly for her sake. I mean, if she can make a little money on it, then that's terrific. I'm very happy. It's called The Guilty Knitter. It's all about me. Haha. But she made me look a lot, just a teeny bit younger than I really am. And my hair looks way nicer on the avatar than it ever does in real life. In real life, it's just a crazy mess. Anyway, so welcome to my program, and where I'm going to be talking about quite a few things. Oh, by the way, this is my 2nd attempt at this first segment because I don't know what happened. I'm using my Canon camera for this, and then I transferred it to the iPad to do the editing, and something happened to it, and that segment isn't working. So I don't know what's wrong with it. And I thought, well, I have to do it right now, redo it while there's still sun. Otherwise, it will be another week before I do another bit of recording. It's just too complicated during the week when I'm doing stuff. So that's it. So I hope I cover more or less the same stuff that I already just did, and I don't forget anything. I'm recording right now in this room, which is a different room from usual. This is my practice room, my yarn hoarding place where I keep my stash. So I'm going to give you a little tour. It's kind of a mess because the reason I'm in this room is because we're doing some painting, having some painting done. So it's the house is all upside down. So half my stuff is in here when it shouldn't be. But, oh, and I'm over here, of course, is my faithful hound, Monty. There he is. Hey, there he goes. Sleeping away as usual. That's his favorite thing. It's always good to see him there. So yeah, that's why I'm in here. The house is being painted. Tomorrow is the last day. It should be all finished. Not the whole house, of course. Just the kitchen, dining room, and hallway of the main floor, which is a lot. It's still quite a bit. And okay, I'm really having to learn slowly all about these technological issues that I'm facing. It's going to get better, but yeah, the computer now, my memory card was full. I had to go back and empty it. Okay, so here I am back again, and so I will start with. I was thinking that, you know, there's that old adage, life is what happens when you're making other plans. And I think that's exactly what happens in your knitting life. It's like a microcosm of actual life, because, you know, you've got this queue, you've got a bunch of things you want to knit, and then something comes along and catches your eye, and you decide you have to knit that. Or somebody you know has a baby, and you have to knit something for the baby, or I don't know, like you see a test knit that somebody's doing, and of course there's always a deadline. So, you know, like I did with Naomi's socks, I decided I better do that, you know, just for fun. So I feel like it's exactly the same for our knitting. And another thing that came up recently is that this foundation at the St. Mary's Hospital here has put out a call for people to knit hats, for little caps for people going through chemotherapy. So I'm probably going to drop things that I'm working on now and cast on a hat. And Espace Tricot, if you go on their blog, they've mentioned it on their blog, and it's a really great initiative, I think. So, and I think they're even giving a discount for people who want to do this knitting. So it's really worth it. And there's a free pattern too. Like if you don't even have to look for a pattern. So that's good. And as far as finished objects goes, I don't have a lot. I have a hoe, which is right here on the floor where it should be. Anyway, it's my lovely sock. Naomi Endicott, who has knit the Sundown, designed this beautiful sock, and I test knitted it for her, and it turned out really well. I'm extremely happy with it. And now I actually I call it a hoe because it's a half finished object, but does it turn into a whip because I've started the second sock to avoid second sock syndrome? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so right now it's more or less a half finished object. But so that's my only you know, thing to show you in the finished object category. And I had some issues with mistakes, you know, in the pattern I made, and I just felt obligated to go back and fix them. I didn't fix every single one, but a couple of the ones that I knew would bother me, I definitely changed. The other ones you can't really see. Things like a mistake in the moss stitch is not something that bothers me very much. I did everything according to her pattern because I wanted to try it out for real, you know, and give her some feedback on the pattern and that, and be able to show it off on my Ravelry page. I already have a project page up for it, Humble Socks it's called, but yeah, it's I want to put more information on it before long, hopefully soon. But I really like the pattern, and I recommend it highly if you want to do something with a little more interest. It's an easily memorized pattern, and it's definitely worth the trouble. It's lovely. Congratulations, Naomi. Really good job. And this is the second one, and I'm just going to show you this. See how, I don't know if you can see, but the pattern is well established now. So at this point, I can look at it because I can read my knitting and say, oh, okay, I know what to do. I don't need to look at the pattern every single time because it's obvious, you know, it's all set up properly. And but I'm going to insert a picture here of a mistake of another starting out. Like I did I had to undo a few rows and redo them because I made some mistakes. Because it's hard to see what you're doing in the first couple of rows, and to make sure you're doing it right, you have to really follow the pattern. And I guess I got distracted and did a knit where I should have purled, etc. Or, you know, so I got it off, and all you could tell really is that there was the cable, but the rest was all basically a mishmash, n'importe quoi, as we say here in Quebec. And which brings me to the point that you really need to be able to read your knitting and be able to tell whether you've made a mistake, because you're an inexperienced knitter. You might think that that's just the way the pattern is supposed to look. But when you've, first of all, I've already done one sock, so I knew that wasn't how the pattern was supposed to look. But also when you're a new knitter, you just don't really know how it's supposed to look. So it's you know, it takes experience. You're not going to be able to learn that just from my telling you, oh, it's important to read your knitting. But I think that what's important is to give yourself the chance to figure it out. You know, not run and get help all the time. You know, try to figure out what you're doing. Maybe look on YouTube for some helpful guidance as well. But if you are constantly getting someone else to fix your mistakes, then you're not going to be learning how to do it yourself. Now, that doesn't mean I don't go and get help when I need it, but I try to figure it out. And that's an important part of the process of learning to read your knitting. And another little thing I have to tell you is that if you have a few rows that you have to take out, that you need to frog, let's say, which means, you know, pulling them off your needles and ripping them. Rip it. That's where that comes from. The best way to do it so that you don't lose your knitting, and especially with yarn that's very splitty, like this is. This is a Cloudborne yarn. I think it's from Craftsy or something. And it is very splitty. What you should do is frog 4 rows, let's say, if you have 5 rows to take out. And the 5th row, instead of just pulling it all out, go stitch by stitch with your needle. Just take 1 stitch at a time, put them on your needle. So basically you're frogging 4 rows and tinking 1 row. And that way you can be very careful with picking them up, and they won't split as much, and you can put them on the needle properly. This is all stuff that you kind of have to know how to do, but maybe that'll help. You know, in the first sock, I did make mistakes, and I did frog back, and I didn't remember this little trick, and it really does make a difference. It makes it much easier. Anyway, I'm very happy with that I got it on the needles, so I avoided second sock syndrome. Isn't that fun? That'll never be a problem for me anymore. That's not true. I know it's a problem for me sometimes. Okay. Now, the thing was with that sock, the socks, I mean, getting into my, jumping the queue, as it were, is that I didn't get much work done on my cardigan that I'm making for my husband, David. Anyway, I did make some progress. I'm about to join them in the, not in the round, but, you know, join it all into one piece. So I'll be doing the back and the 2 fronts in one. So here will be the holes for the sleeves, and then this will be all done in one, you know, back and forth piece. So I'm pretty excited. It's really a nice sweater, and he's gonna like it. You better like it, that's for sure. But that's by José Paquin. This is the Cathedral Grove sweater. And Briggs and Little Tuffy colorway, or sorry, Tuffy yarn, and it's in the denim colorway. I already said that at least in both other episodes. So next I have my beautiful 3-color cashmere shawl. and it's coming along really, really well, I think. I've got the first whole band done, so that's 4 segments, 2 each of each color, bum 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 bum, with the holes in them. And I did make a few mistakes. I ended up at the only way, unless you're going to count every row, which of course I never do, the only way you're going to realize if you've dropped a stitch or maybe forgot an increase or something is when you get to these rows with the holes, so with the yarn overs, because you're supposed to end up at the end of the row with a certain number of stitches, which I took at least twice. I didn't have the right number of stitches, so I knew there was a problem. And the second time it happened, I went back and I realized that I had somehow made 2 holes in a row. I'm going to insert a picture here too, right after the other, so I had to redo it. Anyway, I had to frog back on that, and you know, there's no point. I don't freak out when I'm doing a shawl and I'm a stitch off. You know, that's not the end of the world. I will be happy to knit 2 together or make one to avoid a lot of frogging and stuff. But sometimes you really need to fix things because, you know, 2 holes in the row, I didn't think I could live with that mistake. So I went back. And now I think I'm on track. And this is supposed to be all stockinette. This whole thing is supposed to be stockinette, really. But I decided I'm doing this next segment in garter stitch because I want to. And I'm sick of purling. But I do want to experiment, and sometimes it's fun to just do what you want, you know, because why not? And I think that's like the beginning of being creative, you know, of doing your own thing, of making it your own. I mean, I may find out that there's a big problem with tension and it'll look weird because I chose garter instead of stockinette. I don't know. I'm experimenting. I don't know these things. But I think it'll be nice. It'll be a little change up on the texture, and why not? You know, that's how I'm going to learn to do things of my own. Maybe someday do an actual pattern. Who knows? Anyway, I'm very happy with it so far, and it's going quite fast. Well, you know how it is. These are long rows. They don't look like much because they're all squished together, but there's quite a few stitches on there, probably 200 stitches, so it's fun. It's really, really fun. And it's soothing. You know, this is the kind of soothing knitting that, yeah, you can take anywhere, and it's just great. Okay, so this is made out of, in case you forgot from last time, this is my friend Annie, who is knitting it up on Instagram, and then her dyeing company is called Knitting It Up. And she did this, it's called the Spirit School colorway. And the purple, or lavender, is a Sweet Georgia merino silk blend. 50-50 merino silk, which is great. It's so soft, gorgeous. And I have quite a bit of that, and I thought, I'm going to use it for this. And of course, if I look at my exploration station, it resembles this quite a lot because I use that same Spirit School colorway in it. And I think, oh, I have a problem. I really need to get out of the same colorways all the time. But I had this yarn, and I'm trying to knit from stash quite a bit. So I know that'll have to wait. Branching out into different colors is going to have to wait. But it will. I think so. Because lots of colors do grab me. I guess I tend to focus mostly on purples and greens and blues. What can I say? It's a thing. I have yellow here, see? That was a bit of a reach for me, that's for sure. Okay, so that's that. That's done. Oh, I gotta show you my little... How do you like this little little button I got from a friend of mine? Can you read that? Let's get knit-faced. Isn't that cute? Anyway, love it. Oh, and this here is my Purple Rain color that I'm going to add to the 3-color cashmere shawl. That one that I'm just doing. Yeah, skinny singles, hedgehog fibers. Love it. So that's going to be my 3rd color. and by Hohi Locatelli. Wonderful, wonderful artist, and I'd love to do more of her stuff. This is my first one. I was watching the Grocery Girls today, and they were talking about their shawls that they've knit that are Hohi's patterns, and I was showing one of them. It was the Tracy shawl, I think. Very pretty, very pretty. Interesting. I'd like to try it maybe. Anyway, so that's that for that. And we've got that and that done. I'm almost finished talking about my whips, because I only had those 3, I think. Yeah, my camera tends to turn itself off. I've had this problem before, so I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe it overheats or something. I know nothing about these things. So I wanted to talk to you because I said I had no finished objects. So I'm bringing out a finished object from my deep dark past, which I hope you'll enjoy seeing about. I did a little video last summer about this sweater, because I knitted this sweater in 1984 when I was newly engaged to my husband, and he was going to Europe for a tour for 3 weeks. So I got the brainy idea of knitting him a sweater. I was already knitting, obviously. I mean, I had knitted quite a few things, I guess. I don't know. I really don't remember how many things I had knitted before, but this might have been my first like major sweater project. And you know, I was smart enough to use big needles and Icelandic yarn, and it's lovely. I did it anyway. I'll show it to you properly in a second, but I did this little video of the sweater as it had been before, and it had well, you'll see it. But now, so I'm going to insert that in here right now as I'm probably talking. Okay, so I'm just going to show you something that is really kind of, well, basically my first finished object that I kept from when I knitted when I was very young, like in my 20s. This is a sweater that I knitted for my husband, who was then had just gotten engaged to him, and he had to go off on a tour for 3 weeks. He's also a trombone player, and so I made him this sweater while he was gone. Okay, so it's moth-eaten, but here it is. Isn't it kind of fun? I'm quite proud of it. I hope you get a chance to see it. So it's got some cabling down the sleeves and some cabling down the front, and then this plain top here. Yeah, if I were to do this again, I definitely would try to make this a lower neckline, because this is kind of uncomfortable up here like this. But you know, he still wears it sometimes, but it's it's got holes. Anyway, so that's kind of a fun little finished object from my deep dark past. Look at that. It's quite something. This is the after effects of my repair work on it. Hopefully you're getting an idea of what it looks like. It has cables down the sleeve, and anyway, it had some holes that I fixed, and I also changed the neckline because he was not comfortable in it. It was too tight. It had like a folded down rib crew neck, and it was always hard for him to get on, and it was too tight, and so he didn't wear it that much, but it still managed to get holes in it. There were holes here, there were holes on the sleeve, and I fixed them. And I was really pleased with myself because I think it turned out quite well. Like, you don't really see the holes. Hopefully they'll stay like that. And this is much better. All I did was take out the crew neck, and I think I tinked back one row or something and then just bound off. So it's a very simple bound off neck, but it's better than it was. And the thing is, I was using the yarn from the neckline to do the repairs, and that was a little tricky because that yarn is kind of old and kind of breaks easily, and it was all crinkly because it had been knitted, so it was a bit hard to deal with. So I didn't really want to fuss around too much with the neck. But anyway, of course he only uses it when it's super cold outside, or if he's feeling really cold inside, which doesn't happen too often. But I was very pleased, and it was it's kind of a nice story, right? I did it while we were engaged, and in 3 weeks I had it from start to finish. I finished it. I was so pleased, and it turned out pretty well. So that was my first major finished object, I guess. I mean, I had done some other things, like I said. But yeah, and then I kept knitting for a few years after that, after we had our 2 kids, Travis and Erica. Well, Erica and Travis. Then when I started playing with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra, which was in 1990, I stopped knitting after a couple of years of doing both, because partly because I was very busy, but also because I was having some neck and shoulder issues. I may have mentioned this before. I have a hard time remembering what I mentioned because I have done so much footage of which I haven't used. So, and I know I mentioned it in one of those videos. So I had some neck and shoulder issues, which I thought knitting was bothering. So I stopped with the knitting because I had to keep playing trombone, which was the other source of a possible pain. In the end, I maybe it wasn't that, and maybe I could have handled it or managed it better. But back then, there weren't so many resources. We didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Google, we didn't have computers. It was not so easy to get help in these kinds of things. So that's the thing. So I just quit knitting. And then when I came back to it 4 years ago, gosh, Ravelry was there, and just so much more help with everything. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'm really happy that we have all these resources in this huge knitting community that we all love, and all the things we can do, and all the patterns we can download, and yeah, it's just wonderful. And you know what else? Knitting, I think, just saves your sanity. When you're going through a rough time, or you're feeling down, or tired, or sick of everything, nothing like picking up your knitting and having a little go at it, and to help your frame of mind. That's what I think. It's very calming. I think we can all agree that that's one of the reasons we knit, because it's soothing. And I think that's day 3 of the yarn challenge. The February yarn challenge is put up something about soothing, and so I did yesterday. And it really is soothing. And okay, so that's it. I believe I have come to the end of my whips, and yeah, do I really only have 3? I have the sock, I have the cardigan and the shawl. I have another pair of socks, but they're kind of hibernating for the moment. I want to show you something that I just bought, which I'm super excited about. Okay, I'm going to make the Branches and Buds cardigan, which has been in my mental queue and in my actual queue, especially in my mental queue, for a long time. And I found this yarn, which you're going to say, oh, big surprise. Yeah, no, it's Loft by Brooklyn Tweed in their Old World colorway. I don't know if you can see how gorgeous this colorway is in this light, but probably not, sadly. No. It's blue, dark blue with some flecks. It's kind of a tweedy colorway with red and blue specks in it. It's just so pretty. So that's going to be my main color. And this light gray, which is it's called Snowbound, very appropriate. Yeah, it's going to be the contrasting color, and it's a sport weight yarn. I think it's pretty close to being a fingering weight yarn, so I may as well just say that this is going to be my first fingering weight sweater, which is pretty scary. Never done one. Pretty exciting too. But, you know, really this turned out to be a relatively well, I did have some gift cards, which helped me pay for this, so it wasn't too expensive. But anyway, I'm really, really happy about this, and I really want to cast on, but I'm making myself wait until I'm finished my husband's cardigan, because that's only fair. I was going to talk to you about, my sister, who is not really well, she's a knitter. She knits, has knitted, but right now she's focusing on rug hooking, which is her big passion, and she's fantastic at it. She was asking me, because she watched the first episode, and she said, what's a colorway? Why do you call it a colorway and not a color? And I thought, well, I guess I had the same question when I first started back knitting. What is this colorway business, and why do you call it that? But then I almost got used to it without really finding out the answer to that question. So I kind of know the answer, but without actually having been told what the answer is. So yeah, like if you were to look at this, you'd say, well, that color that's a blue, right? But it doesn't really describe the actual blue that it is, with all these little variations and what the dyer did, what, you know, that particular combination of dyes that resulted in this, that is your colorway, right? I think that's really what it is. So you can say that this is a blue color. This yarn is in this colorway, Old World, is basically a blue color. But you can't, you know, they're not really interchangeable. You know what I mean? You can't just go around saying, well, let's say, you know, this is purple. Is it purple? Not really. It's pink, purple, blue. Yeah, so that's definitely a colorway specific. It makes more sense when you look at something like that. Or, I mean, this, it's yellow. It's definitely yellow, but it's a particularly yellow colorway, right? So that's that. That's what it is. The difference between color and colorway, I think, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. All right, well, I'm going to say goodbye and put this out there for all you lovely people, and I hope you really enjoy it and come back for more. Please hit subscribe and press the like button if you liked it, and come back for me to see me next time, probably in a couple weeks. I'm going to try to do this every 2 weeks approximately, but it's I can't promise anything. You'll find me on Instagram as the Guilty Knitter, actually Guilty Knitter, no the, at Guilty Knitter, and the same as OSMVIV on Ravelry and on Twitter. And feel free to find me on those social media. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for joining me, and see you next time. Happy knitting. What? Look up at the sky.